Welcome to another episode of Tales from the Tables with your host, Rob Bradley,
John Charles Ciccarelli,
James Burrows,
and Damien Hallwood.
What? Hold on a second. Is that?
It's like the Avengers assembled.
Yeah, right. James has somehow managed to sneak his way back in. Let me guess. Have you been fired?
No,
fired.
thankfully not yet. I'm working on it,
Did it pass
but we'll
probation?
get there.
Stop it. Don't put it out there, James.
No, don't manifest that.
All right, sorry. Promoted.
Yes,
They're like
the position where they pay me more but give me less responsibility. That's a dream, really.
And let you work from home as well.
Yeah. Yes,
that's the ultimate. That you've won. You've basically succeeded in life. Now you do less, you get paid more, and you do it from home. What? How? What is this combination?
Yeah, right.
So jealous.
Yeah.
Well, it's called failing upwards, I believe.
Lovely. That's what you got to do in life. Fail upwards. Yeah. Well, listeners, if you haven't already realised, we now have 4 hosts. So we're going to see how this works. If it's a bit too crowded, but I think we'll be okay.
And we have 2 guests coming today as well. No, I'm kidding.
Rob's
like,
oh crap! Do we? Oh god, Jesus! Yeah, right. That's why he panicked the hell out. We do need some guests at some point. We need to.
Yeah, I have a whole list. I've got people ready to talk, man. I've got
great
friends from the improv world, friends who are in. I have a friend who knows a person who's in Hasbro and can talk about everything that's going on right now.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Really? Wow.
Yeah. Honestly, I do. She's been in the middle of all of the. She's not been laid off, but she's in the middle of all of the layoffs.
Oh, wow!
It's all happening around.
Is she not under an NDA or anything like that?
Probably. So maybe they can't talk about anything. Be like,
should we talk it like this?
Like they do that muffled voice.
I just watched Home Alone. It's the slow recording.
Wankers.
Hi, this is Peter McCallister.
There you go. That's it.
You sound like an Elcor from Mass Effect.
Yes, I love those guys. Anyway.
Brilliant. So has everyone been so far this week? What day are we on? We're on Tuesday, aren't we?
Tuesday. Yeah, good. Can't complain.
The week before Christmas. Yeah. Is this our very special Christmas episode?
No, that's next week because we're all going to record on Christmas, right? Yeah.
Well, yeah, of course. Yeah,
on Christmas Day.
So it is. So it is this week.
Oh no!
Merry Christmas,
it's Boxing Day. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas
and happy holidays to everyone who was in America, who's listening with JC. Yep, happy holidays. Yeah. Politically correct. Yeah.
And all around the world because we have so many international listeners. Well, one day we will.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So cool. So, what you guys been up to in the last weekend? Anything cool? Any rolled any dice?
Games.
I very nearly finished Baldur's Gate 3 though. Finally.
Oh wow! Okay, you're better than me. Nice. I'm still not bloody hag.
Come on, Rob.
Pick it up. I play it for 2 seconds. She kills everyone. I'm just like, oh fucking, I can't be upstairs.
All right. Here's what we're gonna do. I'll come to you. I'll beat the hag for you. Then I'll leave, and you can just progress.
Oh no! I like to do these things myself. I try and figure out myself. I just have this bizarre mentality of like, just kill, and like no tactics, just like fight, and then like, oh, why am I dead? Oh, that's weird.
I'm playing on the hardest difficulty.
Go fight the hag.
Yeah, maybe I am.
Beat her, but like overall have a terrible combat where people like got cursed and stuff, and then just kind of reload the save file, do everything invisible, take her by surprise, and then I think she got one reaction her whole turn before she died, and I was like, yes, I love it. If this was a DM run sort of scenario, they'd be crying right now because the hag got to do nothing. But
I was going to say I recognize that.
Yeah,
I think I GM'd that fight.
Haven't we all?
Yeah, right.
All too familiar pain.
Yeah. I will never forget the banishment of my beholder.
Oh no! See, I feel like I was just having this thought the other day. There are certain no fun allowed buttons in D&D that I wish we could cut out or change. Like, I think banishment and the idea of it is a great spell. I also think it should be a 1 minute long casting time. That's my solid opinion. I won't change it.
Take.
Don't worry, my players. I'm not gonna change it. Hot take. But like that's
maybe
the thing. If
even
you can
like maybe 3
incapacitate,
turns,
stun, catch them unconscious, whatever, fine. But banishment takes a minute long cast. You can get rid of them permanently, but you can't do it in combat. Same with things like temporal shunt, right? Imagine if I put a Chronergy Wizard against my players and they have to sit for 30 minutes after planning their whole combat round, and then I just temporal shunt them away. I'm like, nope, you don't get to do that. It's like a no fun allowed button. I don't know. I don't like it.
Yeah, it is a bit of a shame, isn't it? Especially if
Yeah.
you're like, especially within groups where there are, someone has had to go, okay, well, I'll be the DM. And then they have players that are just like that with them constantly. Like just look constantly just fucking them over. So,
I just told them I will never again run a beholder without legendary resistances.
Smart.
So the next time it will have legendary resistances. I feel like that's a monster that should at least have one.
I'm surprised it doesn't.
It's such a popular, well-known creature. Surely
they have lair actions. They don't standard come with legendary.
I don't think so. Maybe I just completely forgot and ended up not using them.
I'll be the man in the chair today. We'll figure this out.
I'm pretty sure they don't either. But yeah, maybe
that is
maybe I've been running them wrong.
Really bizarre. I would totally do that.
But then
run many beholder encounters. Come to think of it, how about you, Rob?
Oh, I team them up with Mind Flayers so much.
Nice.
Not really? No, I haven't. I tried doing beholders once, and it was we never quite got to the actual beholder himself because he was obviously quite powerful, and we started at like level 1, and like the world was like messed up. Like it was like how like there's a beholder nearby. There's like the world reality sort of seems strange. And, yeah. So there was a lot of that going on, and I think what happened is I did the classic thing of saying something whereby it made them think of something completely different, and they sort of went down a completely different route. And I was like, oh, okay, fine, this is what we're doing then. And then lo and behold, it was vampires all along. I was like,
lo and behold, it was vampires.
I love
what you did there.
I have a whole campaign idea based around a beholder villain, which I quite like. The idea of a group of adventurers from years past who defeat a beholder, and the beholder is not quite dead. It's just kind of going through the death throes, and it's at that point it, in and out of consciousness, dreams another beholder into existence.
Cool.
That beholder is born with 2 things. One, an empathy for its own kind, which, if you understand beholders, is a rare and dangerous thing, and an ingrained fear of adventurers.
Oh wow!
Fast forward to those adventurers setting up their own town and becoming aged and wizened, and this beholder has been around all of time and space, collecting all the information about those adventurers, villains, people they defeated, people who can't technically be killed, who come back having been defeated by them. There's a few creatures that can do that. Comes back with a Batman Arkham City style group of villains to just conquer that city. I'd love to run that campaign.
That's a cool.
That sounds
Sinister 6.
Very much so. Yeah.
That's what I'm feeling.
The beholder lore is excellent, isn't it?
Yeah,
creepy.
That whole nightmare thing where you said there, Damien, they dream one into existence.
They dream each other into existence out of paranoia.
And that's right. And the error because they kill each other, or one of them kills the other one, or something.
That's the thing. Beholders hate their own kind. They're so individualistic and so self-reliant that and in your idea, Damien, like you've eliminated the 2 major weaknesses of beholders. Their arrogance, which is what usually leads the parties to beat them because they think that they're undefeatable, and the fact that they don't like other beholders, because if they were to team up with other beholders, then you've got issues because they become really powerful. I think, so they dream other beholders into existence, but based on the kind of their dreams, that determines the kind of beholder that comes out. So I know that if they have a dream involving blood, they'll spawn a Death's Kiss beholder into existence. God. And if they have one, it's specifically about paranoia, they'll spawn either another beholder or a Gouth, I think it is, and all the different kinds of beholders that there are, all based on the types of dreams that they're having, which I think is really cool.
Where's the best place to find the lore? Is it in Volo's guide?
Oh, now I think it's probably D&D Wiki is.
I think they did do a whole
Forgotten Realms Wiki.
They did do a whole section on beholders in Volo's.
I thought they did. Yeah, I thought they did because they did hags as well, didn't they?
Yes.
Yep.
I really enjoyed reading Volvo's Guide to Monsters.
And they took a lot of that content out when they republished.
Yeah, I know. They made it legendary, didn't
Mordenkainen's.
they? They made it legendary.
Yeah.
So it's
Boo for Mordenkainen
yeah,
presents
it's a shame, really.
If you don't like reading, though, and I hate to plug another podcast that aren't sponsoring us on our podcast, but there's a podcast called the Dungeon Cast, and they just do episodes based on like monster lore or like a city in D&D lore, and they essentially just do research and do like a report on it. Yeah,
sounds great.
Cool.
Sounds great. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, I see. That's where you've been, James. Yeah. New job, my ass. You fucking jumped ship, and you. We've got a spy amongst us now doing espionage, trying to bring tables from the tables down. Tales from the tables are going to come
from
down
the inside.
From the inside, yeah. Break us apart piece by piece. Like, yeah. Well, there's no tales from the tables this week.
Well,
like, hey,
jump into this. Yeah, but you're right. I just looked it up. No legendary resistances. I just kind of assume that if it has legendary actions and lair actions, it's got to have legendary resistances.
Yeah.
And it just surprises me that it doesn't. Come on.
Yeah, it seems so. But apparently not.
So Banished Beholder, Damien? That sounds
It had
cool.
advantage. It had a mega plus to the save, but sometimes the dice just want to mess with you.
Sometimes?
Sometimes I hear
sometimes?
over the grapevine that dice sometimes won't play ball.
I have a habit of rolling natural 20s at the worst possible time where I'm trying to go a bit easy on the players, and it's always in a place where they've seen the roll because I'm like, this is a real dangerous roll, so
you'll make it.
It's very unlikely, so I'll make it public so you know that I'm not cheesing it if I do roll well or whatever. Like I'm not out to get you,
right.
And then I roll a natural 20, and everyone's like, "Oh, for God's sake, not again!"
Damn chance. You could have lied.
Could have just like swept this under the rug. Would have been fine with that. No.
Oh man. Yep.
Yeah, it's very interesting, isn't it? They I think as I've played games with Rolldark and I've done like the private games, I'm getting more and more into the fudging of rolls because of this because dice are just like. And some players, especially
so unpredictable.
It tends to be because of where I live. Because like around this area, you've got a lot of like Airbnbs. I think like between me and Chris, we seem to get a lot of stag do's because Chris is in Bristol, and it seems for some reason stag do's all want to go to Bristol for some bizarre reason, and also here in the countryside. In the Cotswolds.
Alcohol cheaper there?
It must be something like that. Yeah. I think it's because you can have a good night out in Bristol. It's a good town. Yeah, it's a good town, good party town. Here it's like there's like no parties to be had whatsoever. It's literally just like fields upon fields and walks and that kind of thing.
Sounds like a party to me.
But so it's like stag do's, and they're mostly made up of like beginner players, and all they want to do is just charge in and fight the main bad guy. Like, let's just get him. I'm just like, okay, well he does this. It's like 20. I'm like, no, you're all dead. It's like, oh well.
It's hard to kill off your players in a one shot within the first hour because then they've got a very long time sat there not doing a lot.
Yeah.
You do have to fudge that sort of stuff.
Have some backup characters available or something.
Yeah, have a plan.
Absolutely.
To cover that eventuality.
Have someone with an animal companion, and then they can play the animal companion.
Yeah, exactly. We don't have any tales from the tables from last week, but what I would like us to talk about once we've got the news sorted out of the way with Damien, is to talk about for you guys, for you three, think about this. Think about the best magic combos you've ever seen your players do in a game when fighting against either a big bad evil guy or some formidable foe of some sort, where you're like, whoa, that's a really good magic combo. Either like together they've used their like magical spells together to do something, or one individual player has gone, right, I'm going to do this and this. And it's like, fuck, that's genius. Something like that. So yeah, have a little think.
Yeah, I've got to start thinking about that now. While we cover the very lengthy news section, right, Dean?
Yeah. I will. So news for this week is a little sparse, and unfortunately, is also a little bit of a downer.
Oh God! No, not the soundboard.
Wow. On that note, I am sure many of you have heard and read the news about Hasbro. Hasbro, of course, being sort of the overall parent company, Wizards of the Coast, and of course the creators of our beloved Dungeons and Dragons, have been letting a lot of people go. They have, I think it's over 1,000 employees.
Yeah, wasn't it 1,100 at last count?
1,100 at last count, I think. 800
this
earlier
round.
in the year.
Yeah, exactly. So they've fired about 2,000 people or let
Yeah,
go.
a lot of
Crikey.
people.
Quite big names as well, if I remember.
Yeah.
I was going to say, that people are there are lists appearing online if you want to sort of check out the full list. There's a lot of people who are sort of going public and talking about their experience with it. But there is a few kind of fairly recognizable names in the world of Dungeons and Dragons that are on these lists. I'm looking here.
Anyone notable just off the
Mike
top of your head?
Merles is one that surprised
Yeah.
me quite a bit. Previously a senior member of management at D&D, who's I believe been working as part of Magic the Gathering more recently. But Mike Merles.
Oh, that's why. I was like, I thought he was fired ages ago, but that's right.
No.
He was just transferred
He's
internally.
moved, yeah.
He was moved
Yeah.
off of D&D. Yeah.
Yeah. There's designer Dan Dillon, graphic designer Tristan Falcone. There's a huge list of people. Amy Dallin, who's been doing a lot of public facing.
I saw her LinkedIn my post, and I was like, oh,
I've
wow.
followed Amy Dallin for a long time on other things through into being on D&D, and she's been on YouTube a lot in her career, and very bubbly, very lively character, really suited the role, but sadly she is also on the list. So yeah, it looks. I mean, Hasbro have made a big statement talking about the hows and the whys, which is pretty lengthy. If you want to check it out, you can check out their statement. But the sort of over and under on it is that they want to keep the company healthy, I think is the term they used.
Right around
of course,
Christmas time too.
Yeah. A brutal time of year to do it. It's brutal anyway, but a brutal time of year for it to happen, and obviously, thoughts going out to everyone that's experiencing that. I hope everybody finds their passion somewhere else quickly and pain-free, and continues to do what they want to do, because losing any job at this time of year is brutal, but I imagine if you're in that environment, you probably have a passion for something like D&D. And so, yeah, losing a passion project must be even more painful. So, thinking of everyone, wishing you all the best.
Yeah.
What are the laws like in America, JC, for laying people
Terrible.
off? Is it literally like you're laid off? Is pack your bags, off you go?
No, I think it highly. I can't speak. I don't really know the legal system all that well, but I do know that it really depends on the company, and the type of severance that you get will always depend on the specific company that you're hired by. I don't think there's any mandated law that says you need to be compensated in any particular way. Obviously, it's an incentive that companies offer. I could be wrong. Again, I don't pretend to be an expert. I do think it's a law that you are required to get some advance notice. The same way that companies ask you to give 2 weeks, I think there is a grace period with which you're supposed to be told. That actually, come to think of it, actually, that might not be true, because now that I'm really reflecting on it, I know a company I used to work for that shall not be named did sort of surprise layoffs on like a Friday evening, and then Monday we'd be like, hey, where's this person? They're like, oh, you weren't here past 5 o'clock on Friday? They're gone. So yeah, it in general, it's pretty much I would assume similar to where it is in other places, and overall not great.
Yeah, there is one statement from somebody called Rob, who's listed as D&D art manager.
Rob?
Shit.
The statement being, yesterday was surprisingly my last day of work at Wizards as D&D TTRPG Studios art manager. My position was eliminated, nothing to do with performance, which sounds quite sudden. That doesn't sound like somebody who knew that was coming. So
right.
Eliminated, that's a giveaway, right?
Yeah.
So my understanding of it is that they sort of, through COVID, sales went like up like quite dramatically. Like it went for the video game companies, like they saw a certain uptick, and so what they did is they hired a load of extra people. Took on
hoping to ride the COVID wave indefinitely.
And indefinitely, and then and then obviously it's not continued at that same pace, and now they're like, oh shit, who do we get rid of? And they've it seems like they probably got rid of some of their more higher. It sounds like management staff. And higher paid people.
That'll be it.
But they've also culled that they're just saving money on, and then they'll probably promote someone internally into a similar position and pay them a lot less.
Unfortunately, that's the way the corporate world works. They operate like that. They don't see you as an individual. They see you as just a figure on a spreadsheet. And if if there's a way to get fresh blood in that's keener with new ideas and and all this shit, and they'll pay you less. Then they'll just do it. They'll just be like, well, let's just get rid of this guy, get rid of that guy.
Right.
Exactly.
And all that novelty lasts for what, a year and a half, 2 years depending on the company before they're like, you're no longer fresh blood. You no longer have new ideas, right? They don't really engage.
Yeah,
depends.
This is exactly it. It's just the way that's capitalism for you. Unfortunately, it's just the way it is.
It also seems that D&D is still I think one of their better sellers. Where Hasbro's gone not wrong, or they're falling down is in like actual physical toy sales tanked because I don't know, people aren't buying as many physical toys as they used to.
That's because they're made out of plastic.
Well, yeah, I think it's like I don't really like have any young nieces or nephews or anything, so I don't know when it comes to like buying stuff for like even Christmas.
I was going to say, James, are you sure you don't know anything about buying toys? Because I think you buy a lot of hair fortune.
Yeah. Define the word toy.
They're not toys, JC. They're collectible figure. No.
Right.
Well, I actually think you might be onto a thread there, because when I was younger, Hasbro, I think, were much more considered toy makers.
Yeah.
But now, because I am a bit of a collector and I follow this type of thing, and it is there has been big layoffs in the physical product side of the organization from Hasbro. Now with their Star Wars Black Series and their Power Rangers Lightning collection and their Ghostbusters line, Hasbro produce figures that are highly sought after now by collectors and are hard to get, often locked behind exclusivity walls. So they're not mass producing toys that you'll see on the shelves of your supermarket anymore, which they used to. They're much more into a more collector's market, I think.
Interesting.
That is interesting, because like in the 80s we sort of lucked out. I remember my older brother Sean, he's 10 years older than me, and he was so envious of the fact that we had like He-Man and Star Wars and all these and Ghostbusters and all these like toys suddenly started coming out, because they were, just off the back of the cartoons that were being effectively advertised to us,
right,
to like get us into like Turtles, that type of thing. I can't think of any cartoon now that is like that for kids. Like maybe sort of Transformers.
Still in a weird way.
Yeah.
But even then,
but their films are very adult. Their films are very aimed at adults almost.
Yeah. I think I don't know. I mean, this is just me kind of spitballing, but I think in a world 30 years ago when those were far more popular, and that was really the only way to continue to build sort of momentum beyond the television show, was the related merch. Now there's so much extra digital content out there that I think that's where people are focusing. And physical toy sales are probably only a much smaller aspect of building up a franchise, right? Because so many kids now, the parents just throw them an iPad and they're like, here, entertain yourself, watch Bluey for the next hour or whatever.
As dreadful as that is.
Right.
Yeah.
Rob's planning on doing that.
I'm already.
He's downloaded all the Bluey.
The funny thing is that I spend my life in front of screens.
Yeah.
Like I'm literally in front of a screen right now, and then I'll go home and like Charlotte will be doing the cooking or whatever, and I'll just get the Steam Deck out in front of a screen. Yeah. And as I'm playing it, I'm thinking to myself, this is really bad.
Yep.
So I'm in front
Do you wear glasses, Rob?
No, I don't. But
Get ready.
Yeah, I know. Because do you know what? My focus is I have to because I've got a fairly nice, that's quite a nice view outside my office window. We've got like a lot of fields and stuff, and if I every now and again I'll be working, I'll go, right, look out the window, I'll just look out the window, I'll look into the distance, because my focus of like things at a distance is starting to like wane a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm 42.
There's a whole thing to it, right? You're supposed to there was like an old thing, it's like 2-2-2 for every 2 minutes, or for every 20 minutes you're supposed to take 2 minutes to look at least 2 something away, or 20 feet away, or something like that. I don't remember exactly what it is, but there's that philosophy, which I'm definitely not practicing, because I'm currently in a basement and I run my games from a basement with no windows that lead out to the outside world. I'm trapped. Send help, everyone, please.
Vitamin D as well from the sunshine. Although I know it's winter, but still, like, it's so important. Like getting out and walking around and stuff. Like, the thing is as well. It's like what, like, because I was just thinking then about what you said about the children playing with toys. There's definitely now. I wonder if like Hasbro are aware that there's a cutoff of like when they stop playing with toys and start playing computer games,
right,
because that obviously happens at some point. Like to think of my sort of own experience of that, I must have been about maybe 10 or 11 when I started playing
you made the transition.
Atari. That transition from like computer games, from physical toys to computer games, and then to listening to music while still playing computer games.
Right.
And I've kind of stayed that way. Like, it was like the generation above me was like, toys to toys, computer games, they're all right. Oh, now music or whatever, or now I'm an adult, and they have never went back to computer games. Whereas we kind of just stuck with them forever.
Yeah. Us
adults.
Damien, you've come full circle. You went.
I was just going to say, adults will often come full circle. I did the exact same thing. I was toys and then moved to video games, and then as I've got older, I've been like, man, I really want a statue or a figure of Kratos stood on my shelf.
Do you play with your toys, Damien? Be honest.
I suppose expose.
Rob's face for all of you listeners at home right now. His little like he's to play with your toys.
I can't fucking talk. I've got a bloody
you've got your
I've got a massive really controlled airplane. I've got my Gumpler here that I'm trying to figure out rules for so I can make them fight each other. It's like all over it. I'm like whenever I get a spare 5 minutes, I'm like, how can I make the Gumplers fight each other like a cool sort of 40k kind of way? There must be a way to do it.
Well, that's what I'll do. I'll rearrange, because a lot of the collectibles I have are I have a lot of Godzillas.
Nice.
Wow.
Because I love Godzilla. Go see Godzilla -1. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic movie. My first Toho movie as well in the cinema, which was really special.
Okay.
So I've got a lot of Godzillas, and they are posable. I've got some other anime figures from My Hero Academia, which is they're all posable. I've got Ghostbusters, which were very expensive, which are posable. So I will often change the poses of them to refresh them on the shelf.
Yeah.
Nice.
I'm the same with this guy here.
That's kind of play. That's kind of playing with them.
Around.
Yeah. You'd make a great elf on a shelf parent. Come to think of it, you're getting all this.
We ordered one, and it never turned up.
Good.
Our elf is off somewhere in the postal service doing strange poses.
You'll get postcards from France and stuff. It'll be like outside the Eiffel Tower, just like chilling out. Like, there it is.
I dread the day of having a kid and having to buy one of these elves on a shelf. Not to say that I don't enjoy the creative aspect of it, but the fact that it's like so in the cultural zeitgeist that you must have one. It's kind of like the thing.
Yeah, because they'll come back from school and they'll say,
Right.
"Oh, Sam just got an elf on the shelf.
One. Everybody else
in
there.
That's what's gonna happen. It's the same with the mobile phone. Like that's the thing. That's the day I'm dreading when they're like, "Dad, can I have a mobile phone?" I'm like, "No." And they're like an 18-year-old. I'm like, "No." You can have one. Just go buy it yourself and get yourself onto a contract. Yep. You pay for it. Go for it.
You can do a family plan if you want, but it's got to be on you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So all of that to say, rough day for Hasbro and employees of.
Oh right, the news. Yes.
Yeah. See what I did there?
Right.
Nice.
I only have a couple of very small additions to this, just a couple of releases that I wanted to kind of highlight because I think they look cool. There's a new game called Castaway, which looks like it uses the Morkborg system.
Yes.
But you don't need to have the Morkborg book in order to run it.
What system is that?
I've never run Morkborg, but I know it's very popular. It's extremely artistic.
It's like post-apocalyptic. what it's like. Very sort of cyborgish. I don't know too much about it.
From what I understand, it's relatively rules light, but rules comprehensive. It's
Okay.
I've never run it, but it's very the book is extremely lavish. It's a yellow book from memory with a big skeleton on the front of it, and it's all the interiors are very kind of arty and laid out with full color pages and strange layouts and things like that. It's quite an arty book. But Castaway aims to give the player the feeling of being cast away on a shipwreck, on an island, lost at sea, with a kind of Age of Sail flavor from what I'm reading.
Cool.
But also a little fantasy, so it's not pure survival sim. It has elements of fantasy to it as well. So if you want to be Tom Hanks,
I was gonna say, surprised I got the name. I feel like there's a TTRPG for everything now. Like, there would be a TTRPG for Tom Hanks's Castaway.
Role playing Wilson would be pretty straightforward, wouldn't it?
It would be. Yeah.
Or is it actually really introspective
that
and deep?
Stuck with me. That did. Oh.
Yeah, that stuck with me too.
That's so sad. That bit.
Yeah.
Poor Wilson.
Great movie.
In the water when he loses it.
Yeah.
Spoilers
it's a really lovely way of showing you like how just how we rely on each other. It's just and obviously he just had a companion and it's just so beautiful. But
the need for social connection and the fact that he was starved of it for 2 years.
Yeah, totally.
The fact I can say, younger listeners, if you don't know Castaway, ask your parents, is really upsetting to me.
I know. Yeah, right. That was early to mid 90s now.
Yeah,
right?
It's mental to think about how much because I was thinking about this the other day when our child gets delivered into the world and becomes a sentient enough to sort of appreciate Marvel and Star Wars and all these things that obviously I love, how much content there is for them to absorb even now. Right. Going back to the 70s, there's just so much amazing stuff. It's like I keep touring the idea of whether or not when they eventually go, Dad, can I watch Star Wars? And I'll be like, oh, I'm so pleased this day has come.
You have taken steps into a larger world.
What do I show them first? Do I show them episode 1, or do I go do I start them in episode 4, like how we all kind of were started? Well, I was certainly, and I'm sure JC was the same. And then. Do we go that way, or do we go that because the reveal of Anakin being Darth Vader was such a massive deal to the audiences because you had no idea if Darth Vader was lying.
Right.
No.
Was he lying? And then in episode 6, is it? No. Yeah, 6, Return of the Jedi. You're like, fuck, he was telling the truth.
Yep.
It's like, oh,
Father,
God.
there is still some good in you. And you're like, oh my God.
I would probably do it that way. I'd probably have them experience the original first. Probably that being one of the main reasons is to keep that surprise, to see that surprise on their face. Yeah. Would be kind of a vicarious way of reliving that. So
yeah,
there's the 3 different ways of watching it. I always forget the name of the other way, but there's the chronological, there's the sequential. So chronological meaning in the same order that they came out for us as an audience.
Yep.
Sequential meaning episodes 1 through 9 in that order.
Yep.
And then there's the weird one. I don't remember the name of this. The machete order. That's it.
Oh, well, okay.
Okay, so this one here, I'll just read you the tagline for this because I did do the quick Google search. The Machete Order is a unique Star Wars viewing experience designed by fan Rod Hilton. It skips episode 1 entirely because some viewers deem it less relevant to the overall narrative. Machete Order preserves Darth Vader's true identity until The Empire Strikes Back, enhancing the viewing experience and allowing for a more emotional storyline. It goes, so you start with episode 4, A New Hope. You go to episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. Right. Then you jump to episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Then episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. And then episode 6, Return of the Jedi.
Oh, so right. Okay.
It's a weird, right? I get it. I get the appeal to this order. That's but it's weird, right?
Oh, I'm going to have to do that over Christmas.
Yeah.
The real question is,
Write that down.
what order do you watch everything else in all the expanded universe stuff? The Clone Wars, the Rebels, all the different shows, all the interim movies,
To
Rogue
be
One,
honest,
Han Solo, Star Wars story.
as much as I love some of the new stuff, I just my
Aren't you a
heart's just
super big fan of the last trilogy, Rob? I thought you
no.
said you loved how Star Wars.
how like all those Star Destroyers just turned up for absolutely no reason whatsoever in the final episode. They make absolutely no sense at all.
Can I just say, by the way, on this topic, we've beaten it to death, but here comes the horse all over again. Who here has played Knights of the Old Republic?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, played it.
Do you remember the plot line, like the major sort of what was it, the Starforge? I think it was called, right?
Starforge, yep.
That was what was producing all these ships, and I was like, what a brilliant plot line that they would take, or they should take, when I was thinking what they were going to do for Force Awakens in terms of what the the big bad sort of plot was. No, they just ended up making the Death Star bigger and more lethal. Here's Starkiller Base, but then they kind of did that with the last movie, but they didn't explain its origins or anything else like that. So I was like, oh, what a horrible mismatch of concepts that they could have done from the beginning in a different way, the way Knights of the Old Republic had done it, and it would have been so sweet.
My brother and I have had so many very, very long conversations into the complete, like the dead of night, about this and how we would have loved to have done it. It's like, if you look at the something we both agreed on, which I think would have been amazing, would been, they talked about the balance of the Force, and that there's always two, and the rule of two, and if they could have really played with this and said the rule of two is actually there always has to be a Sith. And if you destroy the Sith, the Force completely eradicates and is gone
Right,
throughout the
interesting.
universe. And they could have been like, why, like Luke at the end of Return of the Jedi. You don't see him use the Force again, and there could be it could be like the start of the next thing would have been a huge surprise. Oh, by the way, there is no Force. But what it takes is for someone who is Force sensitive to do some kind of like maniacal act with it. And they could do that. Like they could like, for example, if they suddenly decided that they were going to hurt someone, or someone would wrong them, and they do that whole thing, or they kill them, all of a sudden all the Force sensitives all suddenly become really sensitive, and it's like everyone's got the Force again, and it's like, oh fuck, like that would have been so good.
Like a literal The Force Awakens kind of. Once again, it returns to the
that's
world.
what we thought. We thought the Force was has been dormant because of that happening. That's why we thought they called it that. We were
that would have actually, honestly,
so
it would have been a better trilogy.
It was so interesting. It was so interesting because it makes the Force so much more mysterious and magical, and they really missed a trick. And the whole thing about the metachlorians thing, they didn't need to explain it. They didn't need to explain where it comes from.
Oh, you didn't like the midichlorians? Right? Your midichlorian count is super.
I loved it. I loved it. But you know what I mean? It's such a shame they really didn't like. Oh, I don't know.
Here's a excellent transition to the next part of this podcast. If I do say so myself. Yeah. Part of, I think, what made the Force so mysterious and interesting in the original trilogy, I think, is in large part due not just to the writing and the world building of it, but to the music. Because John Williams's lilting, sort of mysterious score, you know what I'm talking about? That one segment where he goes, where it's like almost inaccessible. It sounds like something you're trying to grab that's not quite there.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? Isn't that just, anytime I hear the word Force, I think of either two things. I think of that little bit from the score, or the Binary Sunset bit. So I don't know. I think music does so much service for that concept. Totally. Which brings us to what, Rob?
Well, we're going to be talking about magic combos. Is that right?
Yeah.
Is that what you're about? Yeah. So yes, Tales from the Tables, guys. What do you have in terms of magical combos that have happened in games where you've been like, flipping heck, that was incredible. What an amazing magical combo that was. Either you've seen it happen amongst all of your players and they've worked as a team to use all their magic together, which, let's face it, as DMs, that's like the moment of like, when you see them suddenly realize that they can all work together and they do it and it's a success, and you're like, yes, this is what it's all about. Watching all these players work together in this way is so incredible. Yeah. So yeah, anything like that that you've got, or just an individual player where they've just gone, they've looked at they understand their character through and through, and they've linked some magic sort of together, and they've just gone this incredible thing. And we're just like, wow, yeah, get it.
I'm sure I've got a million of these. Damien, anything off the top of your head?
The first thing that comes to mind, I think I've talked before on the podcast about a Death Knight in Descent into Avernus campaign being clowned by the group. And that was thanks in no small part to the fact that they polymorphed the nightmare he was riding
Wait, I didn't know this, actually. What did they polymorph it into?
Into a turtle.
Brilliant.
Because, yeah.
As you do.
So that's one big problem out of the way. And the other thing was in a setting in hell, a large portion of my player base had fire-based abilities. So the warlock was able. I'm off the top of my head forgetting what it's called, but was basically able to negate fire resistance and fire immunity with one of his abilities, which again took away a big benefit
that's huge
that character has at their disposal. And then because all of them were just flinging fireballs and carrying flaming swords and scorching rays and all of these fire-based abilities, it became a pretty one-sided fight.
Right. That's actually really, really good. I know sorcerer. Is it a sorcerer? Or maybe it's a wizard subclass. One of them has the ability to change the damage type of, I think this is a sorcerer thing. I might be mistaken. But one subclass has the ability to change the damage type of a spell that and you can change it to a different damaging type as long as you have one of those in your repertoire. Which so useful. Imagine changing a fireball to force damage in that sort of situation.
Yeah.
So good. Combos though wise, I know I've seen a rather infamous example was a party of mine walking through a dungeon. They had a absolute horde of creatures coming at them. I actually forget specifically what the creatures were. They were low level minions. There was probably a good I think 15 of them, right, against probably a party of 6. And I specifically had it where they were coming in through a hallway, sort of like a choke point, with the idea that they would make use of their AoEs, but I never expected them to take out all of the minions in one go with a combo of Cone of Cold from the wizard and a Shatter, because it was just beautifully done. All of the ones that were failed their con saves were frozen into statues, as per the description of Cone of Cold, and then the sorcerer came in, followed that up with a Shatter, which just blasted not just the rest of the minions, but the entirety of the hallway to smithereens and oblivion, collapsing rubble in on everything and burying them all, but also trapping the party inside the rest of the dungeon, which was brilliant, and I had a roll from that. Not quite like the most epic. I mean, I've seen, I guess, grease and fireball combos, and I've sort of house rule that does extra fire damage and such. I don't know. I have to really give it a consideration. What about you, Rob? Any specific examples?
My biggest problem is that I can never remember the specific magic that they've used. But the one that really sort of springs to mind is when these guys were fighting this legendary black dragon, and they managed to trap it into they managed to sort of corner it into this one area of this town that it was pretty much destroying, trying to find them. And I can't remember exactly what they did, but they managed to make themselves all invisible, and then they managed to create a portal and tempted the dragon into the portal somehow by creating an image of either it was like the dragon's worst enemy or something. I don't know I can't remember what it was, but it was somehow they figured all this out. But it was that process of going through those tactics, and they did it really quickly. Like they were like, right, I'll do this, I'll do that, we'll do this, and then we'll
Nice.
create this portal, and then they'll just be like, poof, and the dragon will go through that dragon into the portal, then we'll close the portal, and then the dragon will be gone somewhere in some other place in the multiverse.
Yeah.
Which was like just brilliant. But for the life of me, I can't remember.
Right.
My
specifics.
My Icewind Dale game on a Tuesday night shark, guys. I'll be seeing you later. They used a great combo. They were up against a quite frankly insurmountable number of foes, having stumbled into an area filled with Dwergar, and they used a combination of spike growth and wall of thorns. So they made an area deadly, pretty much, with spike growth, or at least extremely dangerous. When you move through spike growth, it does damage. And then used wall of thorns to kind of ring that around them as well. And they were in this sort of bunkered down position,
brilliant,
where the enemy had to come to them. So they created this no man's land of horrendous spikes and thorns and constant magical damage that was just assailing anybody that wanted to come anywhere near them. That was a great combo. That wiped the board.
Nice. Was that in Zardarok or Sunblight Fortress?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Yeah. Spoilers. Oh no.
Well,
yeah. Excellent.
James.
I have a. I was just going to say I have a super quick thought on this. It wasn't a spell combo, but it was a spell used probably in one of the more creative ways I've ever seen to completely delete the rest of the session that I had planned, and it made me have to jump like a session and a half in advance. So, and I might have mentioned this at a previous point, but I can go into a little bit more detail without making it too long. This was a very end level sort of epic campaign moment. My players are invading the Mind Flayer homeworld. They're on a ship. The Nautiloids come out in force. There's dozens of them. They're running. The majority of the main attacking force is kind of running a distraction so that they can kind of just deal with a few ships and then land on the planet. While they're doing so, they defeat like 3 Nautiloids after a very hard-won battle. They're expending most of their resources. They're on the deck of a GIF ship fighting them off. And then they see this massive Nautiloid dreadnought, and I described it as this huge thing that dwarfs even their massive ship, and it's coming up. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be great. I had this whole idea where I was going to make it like a truth and reconciliation segment from the original Halo game. If you guys have played this, basically you board a Covenant, an alien Covenant ship, and it's super
sick.
alien for the first time, and you have to kind of navigate your way through it. And I kind of really wanted that for my players. So I had fully intended to capture them using this practically undefeatable Nautiloid, which is racing at them at breakneck speed as they're coming at it. So they're about to collide effectively. And my wizard player, who to his credit plays with the intelligence that of his character, because he's quite an intelligent player and a creative one, said, "Hey JC, nothing can physically pass through a wall of force, right?" And I was like, shut the hell up. Shut up right now. And he says, no, I'm not protecting us. And I was like, no, I know. He's like, I want to put this up in the air as the ship is coming towards it. I want to put up a wall of force there. Like, it's not going to be the same size as the ship, but the ship won't be able to pass through it. And it's coming at how fast? And I'm like, it's coming fast. I can't tell you the exact specifics of the speed. And he's like, I'm going to try this. And I was like, this is too good of an idea to hand wave away, being like, no, it doesn't quite work, or no, there's an anti-magic field around the ship or something like that. It was too good of an idea. And it deleted the whole truth and reconciliation idea I had for the players boarding the ship or escaping from their prison cells. I had to take out like 2 sessions worth of content and throw it in the bin, but it was so good. And I described it as almost, actually, I really don't have a parallel for this, but the ship just crashes into it. The wall of force splits it in twain as the force of the reverberation kind of accordions the rest of the ship and explodes out the back end. And just, it was devastation, and a point of inspiration was not enough to award that player for that creative use of wall of force. Just using it offensively rather than defensively just became so clutch in that moment. And he's like, great, I'm going to keep this in my back pocket for future reference.
Yeah, right.
Never again.
Yeah, I suppose the key for that is to just make sure that whenever anything like that happens again, there's something on board that they value that could also be destroyed.
Right.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like an NPC that's very important
Yeah.
to them, or the
Yeah.
MacGuffin or whatever it is. Right.
Exactly. Yeah. Something that
you know,
stops them from being able to do it.
Yeah.
But
they, I mean, it was an in the moment decision. They had maybe 2 rounds to decide, or 1 round to decide how to do this, and the ship was basically upon them, and he was like, I'm gonna cast Wall of Force, and I was like, God damn it, no.
ace.
It's
so epic. I could so see it as well. How big is how wide is a Wall of Force?
I think it's 100 contiguous, or it's like 10 by, okay, so it's 10 by 10 foot squares. And you can arrange that in a pattern of your choice. So you can have a straight line of a wall of force, for instance, and then the ship just splits as it comes into it. Or you can face it, or you can shape it like a sphere or a dome, and then that'll cause more blunt devastation than cutting, I suppose. But this is all postulating. There's no real rule for how does a wall of force affect a massive moving object, but I guess
it doesn't even need to be big enough to engulf the front of the ship. It's like a car hitting a lamppost. If it's going fast enough, it's going to cut the car in half. Even just a immovable rod.
I was going to say,
would do some
damage.
Rod. But the problem with immovable rods,
hit each other.
Yeah, I mean, but the thing is, at least the immovable rod has a threshold, right? There is a certain amount of weight it can take before it is physically moved. But you can still do insane things with an immovable rod. That same wizard player in a different campaign has used an immovable rod to great effect. I'll give him a link to this episode. Tell him he's been appropriately shouted out.
What would happen if a Wall of Force met a Wall of Force?
Ooh.
Would they cancel each other out? No, they would just be like they'd open a rip in time and space.
Probably that. That's how.
Probably the same as putting an extra dimensional space inside an extra dimensional space.
No rules for it, but
it opens the warp.
And
chaos just comes out.
The far realm portal just tears open, right?
Yeah. Have you guys ever seen Event Horizon?
Yes.
No, I wanted to.
That is actually totally based on 40k lore.
Is it really?
Stop it.
Yep.
Stop.
Yep. The guy who wrote it was into 40k, and he based it on like a prequel to all of that.
That movie is. I watched that film for the first time at an age I really shouldn't have.
Yeah, me too.
That's
and it messed me up.
Right? From Jurassic Park.
The tape recording was enough. Yeah, Sam Neill's in it. Who very nearly played James Bond.
Oh yeah.
You've seen the recording for him.
Yeah,
you've seen that. Yeah.
Lawrence Fishburne, I think.
Yeah, there is a moment. I think Rob, you just alluded to it. The recording when they finally there's a recording. They basically the quick premise is a ship goes missing. It suddenly shows back up. It has effectively warp technology on it that they've tested, but maybe it ended up somewhere it shouldn't have been. So when the salvage crew come to kind of collect it, all heck breaks loose, and there's a recording of what happened aboard the ship, but it's all scrambled and they can only hear bits and pieces of it. But there is a scene where they're all sat around and they finally descramble the video footage. And it is one of the most haunting moments I've ever seen in a horror movie.
It sounds like right up my alley. I gotta go watch it. It's really cool.
It's horrific. It's a proper good like haunted house. In space type affair. Very similar to Alien in that respect. But it's like I love like the whole premise of it. The fact that the ship reappears outside Neptune. And like they have to go to Neptune, and Neptune is already quite a mysterious planet anyway, because not many people know. Like a lot of scientists don't really know a lot about that planet. And it's already. And when they arrive, there's like thunderstorms happening on Neptune and stuff. Like it's just so atmospheric. It's really cool.
How have I never seen?
You'll love it. Oh, you'll love it, JC. You'll love it.
I started trying to watch because I was feeling the Alien kick from all of our discussions on this podcast, and so I started to not go back to Alien, but I tried to watch. Life, which is a film that came out not that long ago, a few years ago, with Ryan Reynolds, Jake Gyllenhaal, a handful of other cast members.
Is it good?
No.
Cool.
It's got a very interesting premise. It's very alien-like in that basically aboard the International Space Station, a team of astronauts collect a specimen from Mars, and the specimen has a small microorganism that is kind of revolutionary in the way it adapts and grows, and it can multiply itself really rapidly. In other words, it becomes a
Yep.
much larger organism as it goes on, but it basically is like a sentient goo. It's great if you're playing a campaign where you want a little bit of inspiration for like a goo based antagonist, but it
Oh yeah.
becomes super strong and escapes its confinement and starts doing a lot of violent things. Spoilers for not that good of a movie. Unfortunately, Ryan Reynolds outstays his welcome just long enough to make it annoying. And
Oh
he
really?
died. He's the first one to die. Spoilers again.
I do find Ryan Reynolds can be a little bit annoying.
Because he Ryan Reynolds, right? Like that's
Yeah,
the thing.
constantly. It's like, all right, we get
Great.
it. Yeah, we
Yeah,
get it.
he's great in certain things like Deadpool, where he needs to be Ryan Reynolds
Yeah,
24/7.
yeah.
But in something like this, he comes off as brash, and he was appropriately cast, and he just overstays his welcome a little bit. But he dies, and then the thing escapes into the vents, and it goes on from there. And I got halfway through it and stopped. I was like,
Yeah.
ugh, tough.
It does feel like it could be quite an exhausting endeavor being Ryan Reynolds 24/7.
Yeah.
The expectation. It's like with have you guys ever seen Jim Carrey talk about when he met Tommy Lee Jones for the first time? And
No.
he met so they were in Batman Forever together.
Oh
He
yeah.
was he was
true.
playing the Riddler, and Lee Jones was playing Two-Face with Val Kilmer as the Batman.
Right.
And prior to them shooting the film, Jim Carrey walked into a restaurant in Hollywood, and Tommy Lee Jones was there, and he was like, "Oh no way, Tommy Lee Jones is in here. I'm going to go say hello." And he went over to him, and Jim Carrey said that Tommy Lee Jones turns to look to see Jim Carrey coming towards him, and his face just drops. And Jim Carrey's like,
no.
"Oh, okay." And this is at the height of Jim Carrey's fame. Like he's done The
Yeah.
Mask, he's done, he's like, top billing Hollywood actor.
Right.
And he goes over to Tommy Lee Jones, and Tommy Lee Jones is just like he starts to like shake like an old man, and Jim Carrey's like, what's the matter with him? And Jim Carrey comes down and is like, "Hi Tommy, I'm Jim. Like we're gonna be working together. It's really great to meet you." And Tommy Jones tells him to like come closer,
Yeah.
and he puts his arm around him and he squeezes him, and he goes to his ear and he says what is it he says? Anticlimax time.
Uh-oh.
"I cannot something your buffoonery. I cannot what is it? Oh, for
Is it like
fuck's
I
sake.
can't stand
Yeah,
your
I can't
buffoonery or
stand you.
something?
I can't like warrant your buffoonery or something like that."
Oh
Basically, like a
my
really
God.
like you could tell that he really doesn't like him. And Jim
Oh
Carrey was like,
man.
"Great." So I've just been told that the guy I'm going to be working alongside with, who an actor that I really admire and have admired for years, thinks I'm a buffoon.
Oof.
You know,
I'm
how
looking up
awful
the
is that?
exact quote because now I must know.
Yeah, please find it. Yeah, because I'm sorry that I couldn't recall it. I couldn't.
Oh,
I
is this a
can't.
Tommy Lee Jones?
Yeah. When Jim Carrey goes up to him,
Welcome
yeah,
back, James.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
it's really harsh because Jim Carrey's like comedy, like his style of comedy was so different to what had been out up until that point,
Yeah.
and he becomes so famous and so popular. And for Tommy Lee Jones just to big, well-known actor,
Wow.
very good actor, turns around and says, what does he say to him, JC? Have you found
I
it?
found the quote, yeah.
Yeah.
So may I
Yeah, go for it.
quote by Carrie. "He got up shaking," Carrie continued. "He must have been in a mid-kill me fantasy or something like that. And he went to hug me and he said, 'I hate you. I really don't like you.' And I
That's
said,"
it.
meaning Carrie, "and I said, 'What's the problem?' And pulled up a chair, which probably wasn't smart. And he said, 'I cannot sanction your buffoonery.'"
There you go. I cannot sanction your buffoonery.
That's a compliment. That honestly,
Yeah.
that's great in a weird way. But sure, I totally get it. Why that could be a massive blow.
It's a real shame because like clown is such a valued form of artistic expression across the world. Like you go to,
Yeah,
especially if you go to Paris and you go to France, like clown is like massive. Like you look
yeah.
at Sacha Baron Cohen and his wife. They
Hmm.
both went to Le Coq, which is a clown school, a very very world famous clown school in Paris. and which is why Sacha Baron Cohen is such an amazing clown. Like all his stuff he does, like Borat and like all the other characters he plays, it's all clown that he's doing. It's clown, and it's incredible. But
I guess
it's a
Tommy
shame
Lee
that
Jones didn't really
doesn't
care
get
for
it. Yeah, doesn't get it. But he would have done it if Tommy Lee Jones went to like drama school. He would have done clown. Like that would have been part of his the thing with the red nose, when you put the red nose on and suddenly you have to like deal with the fact that you've got a big red nose on, and it's like that whole like lesson that they do.
Yep. That happened to me in my first Rolldark Fest. One of my team players showed up with a clown nose, like a red clown nose, gave it to me and said, "You have to wear this, John. Wear it the whole time, John." And I'm like, "No, no, thank you." And it was a reference to a character that he plays in our game called Clown, which is kind of this eldritch entity, very very It style, with a lot of baggage there. And we won't get into the deep lore of my Wayfinders team campaign. But yeah, there's I remember being handed that red nose and being like, I'll wear it for like 5 minutes while I'm finishing my prep, and then
yeah, right. So we were just talking, James, about magical combos. So got any you want to share?
I have a really one that I hated my players pulling off, but it was I imagine I don't know, maybe you've already talked about it while I was off off air, but it was rope trick combined with fly. So there was just that hole that they disappear into, but they just flew up into it and then occasionally flew down, shot everything, flew back inside it, and we're like, and because of where they were shooting, it was far enough away that they couldn't get the angle to return fire.
Right.
It was
you can do some messed up stuff with rope trick.
I should also say that I can't remember what the combination was either, but the distance that this archer could shoot was ridiculous. at not a disadvantage, it was like 380 feet or something.
That sounds like just a sharpshooter feat with a longbow, probably.
Yeah,
like
maybe it was something as simple as that. Yeah, it gets to like something crazy like 1,000 feet, and I think they were like maybe 500 feet away shooting. Actually, and they just had this rope trick set up. So like, well, the angle's all mine. They just peppered, so they took no damage in this final boss battle. I killed 2 other players, so it's fine. But sorry, player characters. I should probably specify
that. Murder anybody?
Boy, you were mad.
Legally, allegedly. So that was exactly, and they never will.
There was never enough evidence.
Nope. And this is inadmissible. Could I say
some messed up things you can do with rope trick for our listeners who are not perhaps super privy to rope trick? I know most of our audience knows the spells in and out, but I know a few don't.
I don't.
Well, rope trick is this spell where it's obviously requires a rope as part of its components, and it suddenly, like snake charmer, kind of goes up into the air. I think it's up to 30 feet that it goes, and creates an invisible extra dimensional portal to a sort of extra dimensional space at the top end of the rope. So you can climb up into that space and then effectively be invisible and unseen, but still have a view of everything going on below you while you're in this space. The only indication that you're still there is the rope that hangs down to presumably the floor, or in your case, James, the middle of the air. Probably. But you can always pull the rope into the hole, and so you can use that to escape combat. You can use that to take, snarky pot shots, coming out of cover, shooting, going back into cover, basically you becoming invisible the whole time. People can't do anything about it unless they ready actions, and it's hard to get a good angle on it, like you said, and stuff. And it's truly one of those, like, on the surface, it seems like fun and kind of silly and snarky, and you can pull off a couple of fun things with it, but I've seen people do stupid things with it, things that they should not be able to, like pulling up the MacGuffin that the BBEG requires be on the battlefield and putting it in this extra dimensional space and being like, what are you going to do now? You can't reach it. And stuff like that. So.
Assholes. Is if you destroyed the rope, can you destroy the rope?
I would say so, yeah, because I think it's a mundane rope, isn't it?
I don't know, at the point that it becomes part of the spell, is it then a magical rope? I mean, maybe where you'd rule that you could destroy the rope, but
which would then destroy the hole or close the hole.
I don't think.
Maybe you just no. I think you close
just
the hole.
fall out if you want to.
Yeah.
Worst. I don't know, Damien. What do you think? Well, how would you rule the rope?
I wouldn't make it a magical item. I would have it as still be a mundane rope. Maybe if I think it's one of those things where I feel like it would have to be ruled in the moment if that isn't a cop out.
Mm-hmm.
Because if the fight is losing all of its drama because of a trick like that, I'd be tempted to shift the drama in the direction of that spell and make it that the villain has some way of destroying the rope, which would then... Whereas in another circumstance, I might rule it another way, just because it's more fun to rule it that way.
Right.
Not in the same game, of course, because that would be double standards and would cause all kinds of mess. But in separate games, I would probably rule it differently, depending... Because I'm a big fan of keeping the drama.
Sure.
And so if something that the players are doing, even very creative, is killing the mood of the session...
Yeah.
If they're having a great time, an amazing time, then it's not so bad. But if there's players around the table that are visibly getting frustrated because this one trick is just undoing everything and they're just taking pot shots and getting no joy out of it, then I'd probably rule it in the direction of finding a way to get rid of that.
That's fair enough. I think with so Dispel Magic is... If I just read this to you, so it's you guys will probably already know this already, but choose one creature, object, or magical effect within range.
That would work.
Any spell of third level or lower on the target ends.
Yep.
For each spell of fourth level or higher on the target, make an ability check using your spellcasting ability. The DC equals 10 plus the spell's level. On a successful check, the spell ends. At higher levels, when you cast this spell using a spell slot of fourth level or higher, you automatically end the spell effects of a spell on the target if the spell's level is equal to or less than the level of the spell slot you used. So that could probably work, couldn't it?
That makes sense.
Oh
yeah, you could dispel it. And if I had
again, sorry, James. Go ahead.
No, if I had, I think that's probably what I would have done if I'd had a creature that could have done that.
Right.
Yeah.
And usually, maybe, the problem is that they were fighting creatures they'd already fought before.
Yeah.
To the point where, they sort of know what they can do. And if I could have used the spell magic before, I would have used it before, probably.
100%.
I can't
bring it back.
Now.
I'd love to see a rope trick against a beholder, like a proper beholder, because then they just look at the area where the person disappeared to, and it's suddenly in the anti-magic cone, and they come falling out.
Yeah.
So Dispel Magic is, again, with my hot take, one of those things that in a different world, I'd probably make a 1-minute casting time. It's a great spell. It's also a no fun allowed spell. But to that end, one of my most famous early, not frustrating, just I was super proud and it was a super funny moment, was with my very first original Ashen Throne campaign. My players saw... they were fighting an archmage, and he had fly on him, and he was badly beaten, but his AC was at this point very untouchable. He had a lot of things going on for him, and he was flying above them. And my sorcerer player looks up, Bobby, you remember Bobby? She was at Rolldark Fest and stuff, and
of course,
she looks up at him and goes, "Would a Dispel Magic work on his fly just to get him down on the ground where our melee people can hit him?" And I was like, "Yeah." But his health was so low that when she cast his spell magic and killed the fly effect on him, he fell 30 feet and died from falling damage. by this super epic high level mage character that had been absolutely wrecking their day just fell and died to mundane bludgeoning fall damage.
I've been terrible. If I can quickly pose a question, I've been dealing with this recently. This no fun allowed idea that JC keeps referencing. And I wanted to get you guys' opinion on this real quick. I've been rereading Out of the Abyss. I've never run it all the way through, and I'm flirting with the idea of doing it at some point, because I think it's a fascinating but badly organized module.
Yep.
Yes,
it's
pretty
and it is a heavily stuffed one.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it could be played brilliantly if you organized it correctly and spent a lot of time on it, which I'm intending to do. That all to say, and Wizards of the Coast have done this with a handful of their adventures. Tomb of Annihilation is another one, where they set up these grand kind of globe-trotting or location-trotting adventures, which in the flavor of all of their books talks about how dangerous it is to survive, and you need to make survival checks and not get lost and forage for food, which is great until somebody is a ranger.
Yep.
Because a ranger starts with natural explorer. Now,
and ignores all of that.
Ignores all of that.
Yep. You can forage, you can find food. It's basically built into their class.
Yeah. And that's for everybody. It's not even just for them. So between a ranger with that ability, which they get right off the bat, and a druid or someone with Goodberry, that all of that great survival aspect of the book goes out the window. Now, you might be tempted to say, well, don't let them choose, in this case, Underdark as their natural explorer thing. Because
feels gimpy.
But the whole campaign is the Underdark, so that's probably why they want to choose it, is to use this cool thing.
Oh, yeah.
And I just wondered what your opinion is on that, because it really does, it just gets rid of it. It straight up just removes it all.
Well, so Out of the Abyss. Sorry, go ahead, Rob.
I was just going to say, because I've run Out of the Abyss before, and there's a beginning bit which basically I carried on through the whole campaign, was by when you start in the game. So spoilers, everyone's spoiler about if you've not played it before. You start in a cell, and you're surrounded by six or seven other NPCs.
There's 10.
10 NPCs. 10 NPCs.
10.
Yeah. You have to play simultaneously. It's and remember each and which is really, really fucking difficult. But awesome. Like what I did is I just picked 3 and made them chatty, and the rest of them weren't very chatty.
Because there's a couple of drow there. Oh well, there's drow everywhere, but there's Varts, right? Or there's Verfneblin. There's little. Yeah, that sounds like fun. Honestly, they
all have different agendas, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
And depending on who you decide to free with you, determines where you, I guess in a way, the sort of the arch of the sort of the starting of the story. But when you escape, you are being chased by the drow, and this only happens up until the first town, and after that, it kind of just sort of stops in the book, which I think is a real shame, because what I basically did is I kept that going. Good. And I had it in a sense that they were, because we did have a ranger in the party, and I made it so that there was where they were foraging for food, the drow would find that they had done this and see that they had done this, and would then find where they were going. Cool. So it was so they basically were so one of the characters who had a very high intelligence was like, whoa, we're technically leaving breadcrumbs here. This is why we're being found, because they can see that where there would be mushrooms, there are no mushrooms. Where there would be like this, there is none of this. So although they're hiding their footsteps, they're still foraging, and it's working out for them. So they have to ration what they do and be a bit more clever in how they go about it.
That's a cool idea.
But in order to get to that sort of bit, we had to go through various different sort of phases of the game and situations for them to come up with. Oh yeah, shit, we can't leave these breadcrumbs because we're being fucking chased. And they'd have a drow that would they would message ahead into a town, and they'd be like, look out for these guys. There's a group of guys that are coming that are look like this, so they go into the town, and all of a sudden they'd hear this bell ringing, and all the guards would start assembling. They'd be like, what the fuck's going on? Oh shit, we're about to get attacked. Quick, we need to go somewhere else. And it was they were constantly on the back foot. Yeah. Which makes that exploration thing so much more interesting.
That's quite cool.
I think that's great.
Yeah, you could do something similar with other locations and stuff, couldn't you? You could have
totally
attracting wild animals for lower level characters as well. You've foraged and you've set up a campfire to cook this stuff. Well, guess what? One, that's light that you're giving off, that smoke you're giving off, and it's smell. Totally. There's a strong smell that's going through wherever you are.
Yeah.
Snowy tundras bringing polar bears. And then you can do stuff maybe, if you're going to do something Fae related, where you've taken some food that was being grown by a Fae creature, now they're after you, or now you owe them a Fae.
Now you're in real trouble if you mess with the Fae.
Yeah, right. You wake up and your legs are where your arms should be, and your arms where your legs should be, and you've got half a head.
I felt like that before. But,
yeah, right.
I think, Damien, to your original question, I don't really have a solid suggestion for how to fix that issue, right? And especially now that Gloomstalker is a thing, because if you think about it, Out of the Abyss was written before Gloomstalker came out as a class, as a
absolutely.
subclass, and now that between Umbral Sight and the thing that makes them show up as invisible if they rely on dark vision to see them, that's the entire module right there, just meeting a brick wall in terms of that ranger. But with Goodberry, I can suggest this because I heard it in a YouTube video for a content creator, and I thought it was a great suggestion. A very easy fix. Goodberry consumes its material component. Done. Its material component is a sprig of mistletoe, or I think it's mistletoe, or some herb that's difficult to come by. Have fun finding that. With like, it doesn't grow, massively in any other particular place in the world. So, especially if they're in the Underdark, you're not going to find that. It consumes its material component. This now becomes a rare component that is sought after. You might make some, and it becomes its own thing, right? You can make it your own mini adventure or mini quest, just trying to get some stock up on some mistletoe in order to survive what is probably going to be a long road ahead or a long trip. In terms of the ranger, though, I don't know. I wouldn't want to take that away from a player who's playing a ranger, because it's kind of the only thing that the ranger really has going for them. Is the fact that they are supposed to be expert survivalists and such. I'd probably look at some advanced rules for a little bit more intense survival. I think the DMG presents a few options for harder survival rules. Basically meaning that the DC for foraging is a little bit higher, and you run into more situations. Honestly, though, I'd probably just make it more of a particular thing, like James, you were alluding to. Everything leads to something else. You are foraging for food. That means suddenly you're the target of other creatures that were supposed to be foraging for that food. You build a fire, creatures that are otherwise hating of humanoids in the Underdark suddenly see that there's a fire and start tracking you. It kind of leads to its own consequences. I know for instance, I ran a desert section of a campaign, and I described the desert as obviously being very hot during the day, but also being very cold at night. And they didn't have any way of producing warmth apart from mundane making fire. So I kind of did a little bit of a homebrew thing with the Kruthic, which is, I think, a creature from Volo's Guide.
Yeah, it's great. It looks kind of alien-ish.
It's super alien.
Right?
It's got this hard carapace. It's got this bug-eyed sort of face. It's got scythe front legs.
They're reptiles, aren't they?
They
look
reptilian.
like bugs, but they're reptiles.
Yeah. They look like a tyrannid. They look like
they do.
Like
they do.
Exactly that. Yeah, go check it out, Rob. They're great. They're very low level, but that's the point. They attack in packs, and I gave them. They have burrow naturally, but I think I also gave them effectively like a heat sense. So they're nighttime hunters, and in the desert they lie under the sand and wait to feel intense sources of heat. So anytime they would build a campfire, they'd get swarmed by Kruthic. They learned very quickly not to do that. But they also started to realize why, even in the cold of the desert, nomads sleep apart from each other. They don't want to create a group concentration of body heat that would attract Kruthic. So everybody is kind of bringing their own bedrolls and wrapping themselves up in it in order to not attract.
That's really cool.
Yeah. It's a fun little thing.
Yeah, I agree with the ranger thing as well. Like, that is their thing, and it's the same sort of idea as like shoot your monks, where they've got this really cool ability. Let them use it.
Shoot at them. Yeah.
Shoot your monks. They want to do the cool thing where they can catch and deflect missiles with their monk powers. So
no, I've never really flirted with the idea of taking it away from them, but it just kind of interests me. It was more of a kind of a thought piece, and thank you all for some amazing advice there. Just because the book spends so much time on this whole survival aspect, which is undone by one core class with one core ability.
Rob, it's in Mordenkainen's. I saw you flipping through Volos, and I was like, sorry, I misspoke.
I couldn't find it. That's okay.
Yeah, it's another one.
That's why.
I'll have a look later. There's no point in me looking now anyway, because we're on a podcast. They're going to see it, are they? So why was I doing that? Yeah.
Anyway,
cool. Yeah. Anyway, thanks so much for you today, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been nice to speak to you.
It's nice to be back.
Yeah,
Welcome back,
yeah, great to have you
James.
back, James. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
So
I appreciate letting me stay on as well. That's really cool. It's really cool to hang out with you guys.
Hey,
Damon, it was that, or apparently me and you were going to be stuck in a pit with sharpened toothbrushes, and we were going to fight to the death. So
yeah, exactly.
Thunderdome. Welcome to the Thunderdome.
Bring it on.
I was also less keen on that. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Let's go. If that's the way, let's do it.
Very Dark Knight
pretty-
where Joker breaks the pool cue and is like, we're going to have tryouts.
Yeah, right. So sick. So cool. So we've got some games with some space for some players. We've got Odyssey of the Dragon Lords run by Mike. With he's got some space for players in that. I believe that one is quite an epic one. I think you're running it as well, aren't you, Damien? With your group.
I
Rise
am.
of Avernus. Yeah.
Really
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Definitely check it out if you like Greek myth and that kind of thing.
That's on Wednesday nights. He's currently looking for some more players. I believe the next session is on the 20th of December, so tomorrow night. So if you want to book onto that, by all means, jump on the Rolldark website, go to games, go to online games, and click new games, and you'll find it there. There's like a row of grayed out sort of like words that you'll find new games written on there, and then that you'll find. And also, we've got the Steampunk Strad as well, of course. That is beginning on the 2nd of January, which is a Tuesday. Run by Jacob.
Still have space in that?
I think we do. Yeah, I think we've still got.
After all that plugging we did two episodes ago for that awesome concept.
Yeah. Really good.
Jump on that, people.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's still some space on that one, and we've also got current up, Eldritch Relics of Ruin, which is run by our newest DM called Samuel, and that one begins Wednesday, January 24th at 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. online. Yeah, again, all those details will be in the description below, or you can just go to our website. Great. So yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in again to our podcast, episode 21, I believe this is, and we will. Well, I'm guessing we'll have a break next week because it's Christmas Day.
Yeah.
Happy holidays, everybody.
So yeah,
yes.
Holidays.
Hope you all have a great one, and we may very well be back. I think I'm going to be up north actually until the New Year, so we'll have to do this again. Let's have a look. Let's have a little look at my calendar a second.
I'd say actually the 2nd will be my first day back at work after New Year, so I will probably have to be in the office for that day.
We could probably record it on Wednesdays. Wednesdays work out for everyone. 3rd of January.
That would be my first day back.
Okay, so we're going for the following week. So probably the 9th, January the 9th.
I could do the 9th. Yeah,
we'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. Yeah.
We'll be back shortly.
Oh,
exactly.
Wonder if in January there'll be some Rolldark Marches news.
Oh yes, there will be. Yes, there will be. We need to get on top of that. That's something that we've literally this week has been last week I was like, great, next week I'm gonna have a really relaxing week, hopefully it'll be really cool, but we've had so many inquiries come in, it's been ridiculous. So I've got like a backlog of those to go through this week. Yeah, exactly. So we'll be doing all of that. And yeah, cool. Have a lovely Christmas, everybody, and we will speak to you soon in the new year.
Next time.
Next
year.
2024, here we come. Make it stop.
Oh, you don't need to tell me twice.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.